Welcome to the Tango Tango Podcast. Real, raw, and unfiltered conversations with veterans and those who support them. Tune in, be inspired, and walk away stronger.
Welcome to the Tango Tango Podcast. It's another great episode in season 2, and I'm really excited to have Vetlanta member, Atlanta native, U.S. Army veteran, and the leader of the Georgia Veterans Day Parade, which is a lot bigger than that sounds. It's a amazing venture, and Kevin does so much more for the veteran community here in Atlanta and Georgia and across the world, not just across the country, but across the world. Welcome to the Tango Tango Podcast, my friend Kevin Miller.
Thank you, Lloyd. Pleasure to be here and looking forward to a great conversation.
So, Kevin, I read your bio a little bit earlier today, Franklin, Pennsylvania. So you graduated high school in Franklin, Pennsylvania. What was growing up in Franklin, Pennsylvania like?
Actually, it was a great opportunity to there was a lot of outdoor activities. It's a rural area between Pittsburgh and Erie, but it was a great community to grow up in as far as outdoor sports, hunting. You figure in that part of the country, you get a lot of snow sports, snowmobiling and four-wheeling, and a lot of great family activities. Most of my family resided within probably 30 minutes of me growing up, both grandparents. So there was always family involved. I had a great time growing up there. And if you're in the area, it's a beautiful city to go back and visit. It has, from the colonial aspect, everything back to, I think, over 200 years of history.
Very neat. And what did school look like for you in Pennsylvania?
School was good. High school, Franklin High School is a very strong part of the community to grow up in. And it was, I think, really where you had a lot of social activity. For me, high school was a step I always wanted to serve. So I knew that it was not a barrier, but it was something I needed to accomplish to go into that next step. So I was always looking forward to military service. And getting through high school, I would say that I had good grades, but I could have had better grades if I'd applied myself a little bit more, something I remind my daughter of all the time. But for me, it was something I really wanted to get through that to get on to my next chapter.
Yeah, I reminded me, my kids of that too. And by the way, Kevin's daughter, Tina, is amazing. So
Thanks.
So you joined the Army directly out of high school. Were you like me? Did you leave within 3 days of graduating, or did you have some time off?
No, I had a plan. I took the summer off. When they were trying to get me to ship out, I said September. I wanted to spend those last 3 months with all my friends who would then be moving on to their different directions. And I said, you know what, I want to take this summer because I was leaving for the military. And when you do that, you don't know if you will ever come back to that hometown. And if you're ever, things will never be the same. So I wanted to enjoy that time with family and friends. And then I left in September.
So you leave in September, get through a basic training. Where'd you do a basic and a AIT in Fort Benning?
I did. I was with Alpha Company, 2nd of the 54th Infantry. Great unit, still on Fort Benning, training some of the best infantry men and women in the Army today. Great organization. Some of those drill sergeants, that's skipping ahead a little bit, but I ended up seeing them at my next duty station. They came in as NCOs. So I got to experience 2 different relationships with them, but very professional NCOs. The training at the time, Desert Shield was taking place while I was going through basics. So there was a lot of spin up to possible, deployments to there once we would join our units. So the training was very, I guess it kind of was very comprehensive, and I was very happy to be a proud infantryman upon graduation. I was an indirect fire infantryman, 11 Charlie, so we shot mortars in addition to traditional infantry weapons. So great opportunity to join the Army and be a member of the infantry.
So was it your training on Sand Hill in Fort Bragg?
It was. We were just on the new Sand Hill guys. Harmony Church, I think, was like 2 years before that, so it was in the transition. We had the really cool barracks, little starships that are still sitting down there now. But I think every generation has that has it easier than that previous generation. But Sand Hill is definitely my alma mater.
Yeah. My dad spent a little bit of time on Sand Hill, and my son, as you know, my oldest son is 82nd Airborne, a veteran, so he did all his training at Sand Hill. So you decide you want to jump out of planes. So
I did,
the
but that actually came. I was 2.5 years, 3 years as a leg, non-airborne infantryman, and
okay, okay, right,
I was able to pick up. I had to go back through Benning to airborne school en route to the 82nd Airborne Division. So I did experience
okay,
the traditional infantry for a couple years.
yeah, that's right. So you graduate school, and if I remember right, you head off to Korea.
I did.
Right?
I had a chance to come home for a little bit of leave, and then from small town Pennsylvania to the other side of the world, I flew into Korea and went through the in processing, and I would say it was a wonderful culture shock because nothing I had ever lived around or near had this experience, from not understanding the signs to it's January in Korea, so it's fairly cold and windy. And then I joined the Second Infantry Division, and then we were all looking on the map of as you go further north onto the Korean Peninsula. I was going up to Camp Casey for the Second Infantry Division, and then I was assigned to the first of the 506th, which was at Camp Greaves, north of the Imjin River, which is just a couple kilometers south of the south barrier of the DMZ. So I would spend my entire year living at Camp Greaves. So as we looked at the map and followed it up to the top, we found out that we were basically the most forward deployed battalion within that area of operations. So it was a very proud distinction to be serving in that location. So at a very at my 18 years of age, I was at a very unique place in to serve.
And you this would set the foundation. We're not going to fast forward kind of yet, but
Mhm.
this first year in Korea would set the foundation for you to do some amazing partnerships later on, a post-military service, which we'll talk about. But from there, you get a wonderful payback assignment for being a year in Korea, and they move you to Louisiana.
Everybody said the army doesn't like you if they send you to Korea. And I thought, well, I'll make the best of it. We have North Korean propaganda. We have a DMZ mission. We have at least there, you had an important mission that uh, you earned all of that by being and serving there. So then when I had orders cut to go to Fort Drum in New York, I thought, perfect, more light infantry. And then the next day, my piece of paper was replaced with another piece of paper, and something to the effect of needs of the Army sent me to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Louisiana is full of wonderful people, but Fort Polk is a place that um, I wasn't enthusiastic to be shipped there. So I was hoping for a better assignment, but I figured there's something on the horizon I'll be going for.
That's very fascinating because my last episode, I had a amazing retired sergeant major, who was the sergeant major of the Drum and Fife Corps, for
Mm.
most of his career, and he ended up going before the military, moving to Louisiana, and he said the same exact same exact thing. The people in Louisiana are amazing. However, so you're in Louisiana, and so is this when you decide that, hey, you want to go airborne, or did that come a little bit later?
It is, in all honesty, in Korea, I prefer light infantry. I never wanted to be on a vehicle, and being light, and we were essentially an air mobile. We used Blackhawks a lot up on the DMZ area for the 506, and I never wanted to be in mechanized or tanks or anything like that. So when I got to Fort Polk, I was in an armored battalion as an infantryman and a mortar carrier, and I found out that was doing less infantry training and a lot more motor pool work, and that was not the direction I was comfortable with and wanted to pursue. So as my window came up for reenlistment, I reenlisted for Airborne School TDY en route to the 82nd Airborne Division.
All right, great. Airborne school. So as you know, I was a loadmaster. So I
Mhm.
had the opportunity to go down to the airfield there and do the jumps for the training school there, which always we love doing that because you would get a bunch of jumps.
Mhm.
You would do 120. You would land. You would load up another 120. So you could get 5 sorties and drop over 600 people in like 3 hours, and then we were off in the crew rest. So we always like that. Tell me a little bit about your first jump. I'm assuming it was C-130.
It was 130, and as any honest paratrooper, or most of us would say, every first jump's a night jump. You do close your eyes when you go out the door. It takes a second to figure out. Um, One of the best things about it was me and Keith DeVos, who was a buddy of mine. We met each other in airborne school, and we jumped side by side for all 5 jumps. Ended up serving together in different units at the 82nd, but. We were just messing around the whole time, trying to look like we were not nervous about the first jump. And my uncle had been 82nd and 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam, so he was a paratrooper. And I remember something he had told me. He says, "You would get so fired up that you would probably just all run out that door, even without a chute, because you're so motivated and they got you so excited." And I had that going through my head as we were sitting there and watching the door go up in the wind and the jump master looking out the door, and you're kind of taking all this in, and there's a rush to it. Um, and we got up, and before I think I was third or fourth jumper out the door, it was so quick that we were outside of the aircraft. And the thing that shocked me the most was the drone of the 130 pulling away, and how quiet and peaceful it was hanging under a canopy until, and you really have no idea what you're doing. You have your basic idea that gravity is happening, and all you have to do is hit this big plowed field of fry or drop zone. But it was just more peaceful than I anticipated. I don't know what I thought. And then the rush of recovering your chute, running over to consolidation point, and I think we did two jumps, and one jump. I think was the breakdown for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it was very fast paced, but it was a very proud moment to hit the ground, and felt like I've done something really exciting.
Well, you did. You did something big. What an accomplishment! From the loadmaster's perspective, I can tell you it goes just as quick, and it's
No, I'm
it's
sure.
it's it's almost as scary too. It's so we go to an airdrop school in Altus, Oklahoma, to learn how to do airdrop. It's a 4-week school. It's a pretty intense school, and then it's broken into 2 blocks. The first dropping cargo, the second dropping the passengers. And so the first
Mm,
time you go and you open up those troop doors, you're 1,200 feet off the ground doing about 200 miles per hour. So you open up the door, you extend the air deflector, you put out the platform, and you actually have to step out on the platform. And it is beyond scary. So you have a parachute on, but it is really, really scary. But it's the rush, it's the thrill of it. And every time I did it, and I ended up doing it dozens and dozens of times, if not hundreds, you get this rush. But the quickness always amazes me. When you do cargo,
mhm,
you have 3 Humvees on board, and
mhm.
green light, the drag chute comes out, and those 3 Humvees are gone in like 5 seconds. So because
Mhm.
you're eventually flying at 150 miles per hour, so those are leaving at 150 miles per hour out of the back of the aircraft, and for perspective, and then the people. So you got both sides of the airplane dropping. They
Mhm.
actually cross each other when they jump out. So on the 141, you would have 60 on each side, and those 120 people are outside of the airplane in less than a minute.
Yeah.
And it's yeah, was always amazing, and something that made me very proud as well. So
Uh,
that was 1993,
it
maybe
was.
that you graduated? Okay, and then you go up to Vietnam, up in Fort Bragg, and you so you join which unit do you join there?
I became a White Devil, which is the second of the 504th Parachute Infantry Regiment. I was with the 81 millimeter mortar platoon, so we were part of HHC 2504.
All right. The oldest son was a Red Devil. So
Perfect.
yeah. So you get there in '93. So how many jumps do you get? We're going to talk about the green ramp incident in a minute, but how many jumps do you get before that?
I have 5 jumps within division. We had a couple of EDREs. We had deployments and readiness exercises. And it wasn't always easy to get on jumps. And I before we get to green ramp, though, I will say that the last jump or one of the jumps that I wanted to do was after having left Fort Polk to get out of there. I get to the 82nd, we get to 2504, and within a few months, I hear I'm going to JRTC at Fort Polk for a month rotation. And we're jumping in and I thought, what is it about Fort Polk that's bringing me back in? And since I'd been stationed there, I wasn't, they didn't have me do the jump into the exercise because I could go forward and be some of the advanced team since I know the lay of the land and the area. So they asked me to go down and I missed the jump. So had to go back to Fort Polk. And I have not been there since, nor will I. So that was it for me.
So, it was really funny. I was reading, Fort Polk doing a name change, and it was largely not doing a name change for anything other than they wanted to rebrand themselves.
Makes sense.
So they kind of trick everybody, that, they were going to someplace different. So so
maybe the stories had changed.
Yeah. So let's move into the tragedy on the green ramp. This hit very close home for me. As you know, I was a 141, the loadmaster in Charleston. So I was on the green ramp. You probably don't know this. I was on the green ramp 48 hours prior to that. So
I did not know that.
Being in Charleston, I spent a lot of time on the green ramp, and it just made sense. We were so close. We'd fly up there, do airdrops, usually night drops, and then and then we would come home. And sometimes I would be on the green ramp 3 times in a week, doing training drops. So tell me a little bit about that morning. I know I always kid around because you remember the old Army commercials. We do more by 5 a.m. than most people do, the whole day. And I was always kid around, but the Air Force had to leave our houses at 6 p.m. the night before to get you there. So, and then what's always funny
true.
about the military show times is like there's an actual show time at every level that it gets to. They add additional, like show up an additional half hour early or an hour early. So
absolutely.
Walk me through that morning. What time did you get out of bed and actually show up in order to go prep for this airdrop?
It was actually a normal day for us. Got up, did PT, and grabbed breakfast with the guys, and everybody was. A lot of people talked about this jump as a Hollywood jump, which a lot of people are just doing it to maintain proficiency, and then we'll be coming back. Our platoon was going to have a two-day field problem following that was going to give us a chance to do some training. So we were going to have some simulated heavy drops, people driving out and placing the vehicles on the drop zone. And then we were going to have the bulk of us jumping in. And so there was a lot of prep work with getting the vehicles and getting equipment, drawing out your equipment for that. And I was on and off the jump, I think 2 or 3 times that day because I had jumped the week before and didn't need it. So I was told I actually left my helmet bag with, I think, a large bottle of Mountain Dew and I don't know, a Pop-Tart or something in a Humvee because figured I was driving it out to the drop zone. But the final coin toss put me on the jump and stood with members of my platoon when we did manifest and don't have the hard time on it. For some reason, 1300 sounds about right that we were going to be pulling out to go from the unit area over to Rifle Range Road and out to Green Ramp for all the pre-jump procedures.
So Green Ramp, for those who are not familiar, it's just an area there used to be a Air Force base that was connected on the Fort Bragg called Pope Air Force Base. It's kind of still there and it's not, but that's where the heavy cargo planes would land. So C-130s, the C-141 Starlifter, C-5 Galaxies, and you would go in the green ramp and you would load up either cargo, it could be unit equipment, it could be rolling stock, tanks, artillery to do airdrops, or it could be people. And it could be people. You mentioned Hollywood. Hollywood was when they jump with just the parachutes, or they could be carrying their full battle gear from their chin all the way down their toes, and
waddling out to the aircraft, trying to get up into there.
So there was 3 drop zones, if I remember right, on the fairly close to on Fort Bragg, where we would go up. Sometimes if it was a short day and we got lucky, we could just fly and drop them. But other times the Air Force would have to simulate combat missions too. So we would go out, especially at night, and we would do low level approaches. So those could be a little bit uncomfortable. So you would fly 60 to 90 minutes, 800 feet off the ground, doing about 200 miles per hour, hitting every bump in the sky, and hopefully not too many people getting sick. And then you would approach the drop zones and you drop the cargo and the equipment. And then Fort Bragg was and Pope Air Force Base was kind of interesting at the time, because they were doing this concept that this incident proved it didn't work. So they were stationed fighter aircraft together with cargo aircraft in the same base. And basically what happened was an F-16 and C-130 were doing approaches. They hit each other, and then unfortunately the debris from that crash hit a 141 Starlifter that was on the ground, loading paratroopers up and getting ready to fly that mission. And Kevin was on one of the 141s. So where were you at? And then just walk our listeners and viewers through it. How quickly you figured out what was going on, and I imagine just chaos that was happening.
It was, and the speed of things speed up and slow down over time as you think about these. But I remember we were all at the first mock door on the back right behind the 141 and up that little grass hill near the pack shed, behind the pack shed. We're at the first mock door going over pre-jump procedures, the retraining that you do with every jump to ensure that every paratrooper, regardless of his level of expertise, has the same block of instruction before exiting the aircraft. I remember it was a sunny day, which really played well, because typically you don't get nice sunny days and a day jump at that, not a middle of the night jump. And
No, never.
I remember, it never happens. And I remember the F-16s flying and taking off, because as they would come over us, we would have to stop the instruction period. Then once it's cleared out, we could all hear again and we would be talking. So there was that constant aircraft noise that we had going through there. I believe we just done PLF training, jumping off the platform, and we were going over static lines. Sergeant First Class Howard was doing static line injury prevention to how to exit the aircraft and not get entangled with your static line. And I believe he said some expletive crash or something that caused all of us to turn around almost in unison. I bring this up because I always show different how different decisions change things. I was lazy that day after PLF training, and I did not want to take a knee. So I stood in the back of the school circle so I didn't have to take a knee, and I was standing up. So when I heard this, I could turn around and I could see towards where the impact was. What he had seen was an F-16 flying into about 200 meters in front of the 141. We did not see that when we turned around. The first thing I noticed was the 141 in the area of the 141 just went up like a Michael Bay movie, just a fireball.
Wow.
And seconds later, we realized it wasn't a stationary, it was a rolling fireball as the jet, the F-16, hit the 141 and then flew through our group. Initial shock, trying to take everything in, and I remember trying to turn and run. Kind of like in I guess the easiest thing is just couldn't get traction. You're trying to run from something that you'll never get away from. So I started movement, and I would say a few steps before the wave took over me, I was hit in the back by part of the aircraft, I'm assuming, and I was thrown about 25 meters. And where I mentioned the earlier me standing up as opposed to sitting down, some of my guys who were sitting around me who had taken a knee were unable to get up.
Mm.
So being a little elevated, I was launched away from it a little bit more. So there's left and rights decisions in life that you just never know what they're going to do to you. So I came to about 25 meters away, and if anybody's been there, you all know the small chain fence and then the connexes. And my initial thought when that was coming at me was to run behind connexes, which I didn't even remotely come close. I remember being tossed. It kind of felt like being in one of those old air popcorn things. I just remember being
Wow.
thrown
Yeah.
through the air and everything pelting me. I came to in a fetal position, and was in an area that wasn't completely on fire, and got up and started figuring I had to move somewhere. I couldn't stand. My left leg was not working at all from the hip down. It ended up that my ankle and everything was shattered, and all the trauma had basically numbed the leg. And so I was able to lock the knee back, and I stood up, and I saw images you would expect to see. And I reached back, and I could feel part of my skull in the back. I had been split down into the back
Mm.
of my head, and then my hands were severely burnt in the face. And but we all, collectively, as we told this story, we all felt like everything was on fire around us, and there was a little bit of light through the smoke, that we all figured if this is the final walk, or if this is getting out of the fire and debris, that's the direction to go. So we started moving out of there individually, but collectively we told this story later. I tried to jump that fence, but my legs weren't working, so I came to rest, and they were worried I had fuel on me, so I pulled off my trousers and everything, and I'm just laying in the grass at this point.
Wow. Just wow. Terrifying. I mean,
Mhm.
I've read about the accident dozens of times, and
Mhm.
I've heard it from crew members' perspectives, but it's the first time I've heard it from
Mhm.
a trooper. What followed that?
Well, because I was bleeding so much from the head, a buddy of mine later said they already thought I was gone, because your head, of course, bleeds. And I had
Yeah.
my face down because I was a little nauseous, and I, you just trying to figure out what's going on. Then the 20 millimeter from the F-16 started cooking off,
Oof.
which is adding to an already bad situation. I always remember one of our young enlisted, who was part of the one of the truck drivers, would come over to check on me after they saw that I was moving, and one of the 20 millimeter cooked off. That he actually laid a bit on me, and it would not have stopped it, but that selfless reaction was something that, unless you're in the military, you'll never understand, or most likely witness. So they originally started making sure that they were trying to get me stabilized, getting the head wound treated, the burns, and basically started evacing. And this is what I always think about when we talk about our military service. Had this been, and this isn't anything negative towards civilians, but had this been civilians, there would have been three times as many killed and injured, simply because of the reaction from the young enlisted, who the only thing he knew was to put on a first aid bandage and apply pressure and a tourniquet if needed, to people grabbing POVs, privately owned vehicles, for evacuation to Womack Army Medical Center. If we didn't have those people springing into that muscle memory of training, we would have had so many more deaths at the drop center, at the Green Ramp location. And I was, even though it was a terrible day, I will always be one of my most proud during my military times, as I'm laying there witnessing, a friend of mine had lost his leg, so he was laying in front of me, and I was getting my belt off for a tourniquet, and people were just coming in, all reacting, all doing something to impact people's lives. And when you go back to Green Ramp, it was such an unexpected, wartime, you have your mind spun up to possibilities. But on a beautiful day at Fort Bragg, you're not really thinking these kind of things are going to happen. So seeing the reaction time and how everybody responded was one of my proudest moments to be a soldier.
Yeah, heroic. So if I remember the numbers right, 25 dead, over 100 injured.
Mhm, 24.
And
Mhm,
okay, yeah, 24.
mhm,
So you're transferred. They take you to Womack Hospital on the
mhm.
base. Did they? Did you stay there, or they immediately take you somewhere else?
We had some severely burned, and I kind of covered my injuries a little bit, and I like to say all of my different injuries, neck and back injuries, and burns to the hands, the head, the ear, and I was one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
We had some severely burnt and injured paratroopers. So, uh, out to local medical centers throughout North Carolina. And then, of course, the flight started taking down to BAMC at Brooke Army Medical Center. Because of mine, the burns were something that they could initially treat at Womack. I stayed about 1 week at Womack when they were trying to stabilize the foot. And I was later, about 1 week later, sent down to the burn ward for the next 3 weeks for surgeries.
Wow. So they did an incredible job. So I think you're prettier now than you were before. I've seen pictures.
Well, a little facelift at 21 helps a little bit, but the work that they do down there, the burn ward is never a place you want to go to, whether you're a
Yeah,
patient or a family member. But the amazing work that each of them did, and this was the largest mass cow that they had since Beirut in '83. So they
yeah,
were bringing in people who had recently separated from the military, were still at San Antonio. They were bringing them in, and the amount of work that they did rebuilding my hands, to putting on the skin graft to my ear, to they were possibly going to have to remove the foot, but they were able to fuse and rebuild it. They were so miraculous and skilled down at that medical center that and this is actually something that they told us, some of the things they tested on us, and that sounds probably more archaic than it is, but some of the items that they were using for both the donor site treatment as well as the burns, I've seen now as medical pieces that you can get at CVS, because
yeah.
of the burn pads and things. So uh, this large number, and in, the 3 weeks down at Brooke Army Medical Center, it was, I think, 85% humidity, 85 degrees, because of everybody was in a compromised state. So very much amazed at the skill level they had, and even more so was the response of the 82nd Airborne Division having NCOs down there. So uh, Sergeant Joe Steen, and who was part of my battalion, was down there making sure 2504 paratroopers had a familiar face to make sure that we weren't disconnected, as well as the Gary Reserbeck and some of the other staff that took care of me. Those are the people that really kind of made the mental part of this uh, stabilize while the body was healing.
And yeah, we kid around. Yeah, because that's what veterans do. We kid around with each other.
Mhm.
But I know this is a lifelong battle for you. I mean, with your injuries with this, I happen to be I have a health issue on my own, and I'm getting acupuncture because I'm trying
Mm.
everything, and I'm laying down and they're sticking needles in me, like, hey, you're a veteran, and it's like, do you know? And I'm like, there's a lot of veterans. It's like Kevin Miller. It's like, yeah, I actually do know Kevin. Kevin's a great friend, and it sounds like acupuncture is really helping with some of your injuries.
It is a lot of the, just from being a paratrooper and infantryman, your body ages a little bit. And of course, the crash didn't help, and the years since. But acupuncture, acupressure, any of those. I am open to any type of pain relief, and
Yeah.
especially anything that's can be done more naturally like that, that doesn't have side effects and everything. So acupuncture's been a really good remedy for. It won't take away the pain, but it mitigates. It corrects things for a little bit, and then you go back for a maintenance upkeep. So I'm happy that it's working for you as well.
Yeah, I actually, what's really working for me these days is massage therapy.
Yes.
And this is not your typical go in relaxing massage. This is some intense, like painful, and wow, is it much better than any pill or drug or anything like that? And
Mhm.
it needs to be covered in our health insurance. Our health insurance should absolutely be covering some of this stuff, especially for
Well,
veterans.
well, and you think of what the amount of pills and other things are doing side effects that are only going to increase your medical costs over time, where something natural like this would be a cost saver for insurance companies. Absolutely.
So unfortunately, this tragedy and these injuries ended your Army career because I know you wanted to serve until retirement. So fast forward a year, you're discharged. I'm sure that
Mhm.
was completely heartbreaking. What is
Mhm.
life after that look like for you?
It was really an unknown, because the natural transition for guys who are in infantry and weapons guys, you're like, well, okay, well, I guess I go be law enforcement. Well, my injuries took the backup plan away because it was just not going to happen. Um, and this is where I always try to tell people that nobody has the same transition story. And this is, we can only do our best to pass along what worked for us. And hopefully, one piece of that will help another person. In the 90s, there wasn't a lot of infrastructure for transitioning. They were downsizing some of the military units. And it was kind of, I was out before I knew it. I remember I come home and took the uniform off and realized the next time I put this on, it'll be almost like a costume. It'll be not who I am. Um, was making the decision of if I wanted to go back to Pennsylvania, and this is absolutely nothing against my hometown or my home state, but I felt if I went back, I would never leave, and I always wanted to go places, and I enjoyed that part of the military. And I had a friend of mine who lived in Atlanta, and uh, said, "Come down here, come down and experience Atlanta for a little bit." So as I was out processing, I came down on 2 different weekends and really fell in love with the area. And I said, okay, if this was mid '90s, a lot of opportunities post Olympics, there was growth. I said, I need to go down here and at least try. If it doesn't work, I go back to Pennsylvania and I figure out another plan. But you just have to move forward. And so the first, other than um, you know, figuring things out, my first job was in an office where I subsequently met my wife. So that first civilian job worked out great for me. But I just went in as a general office worker, and wanted to go in and just kind of figure things out and do this while I figured it out. So the transition was, I think, achieving that to where you have a job or you have something that is going to make you get up and be accountable. But I think the more important thing is I had a really good structure of family and friends around me that provided a lot more support than they'll ever know. That just somebody to talk to, somebody to kind of get your left and right limits for, just to keep moving forward and know that there is something that you're moving towards, even if you don't know what it is at that time.
So that reminds me of what you said about taking the knee and standing up.
Hmm.
Those those decisions, how
Yeah.
impactful they can be. Like, look, you you move to Atlanta, like, right? I'm
Hmm.
not going to say on a whim, but you move to Atlanta. You find your wife,
Hmm.
and by the way, absolutely amazing. So yeah, you're batting way above your average, as they say. So
Been very blessed.
yeah, and and then you find an amazing home. I mean, you absolutely find
Absolutely.
an amazing home. You're a huge part of this city, by
Thank
making
you.
that decision, by not taking that knee, by standing up
Hmm.
and say, I'm going to continue to move on. I'm not going to let this define me, and I'm going to
Hmm.
move to Atlanta, and I'm going to change I'm going to change. It didn't seem like it at the time, but I'm going to change who Alana is in the veteran space. And
Thank you.
you've done that. It's incredible, like decision points that's paid dividends for you, for your family, but most of all of veteran and family members in the greater Atlanta area and Georgia as a whole. So you get down here, you work in the office job. You have some other successes in business, but I want to talk about the Georgia Veterans Day Parade. So how did you get involved with this amazing venture?
Much like I always say, I'm lucky and blessed, but I also try to say that I've tried to put myself into positions where good things can happen. And this one, I'm going to lean heavily into saying it was all luck. My wife took a phone call. Georgia Veterans Day was looking for donations at the time. And this was right after 9/11, like 2 weeks later. And I'd spent the last 2 weeks where people were asking, well, would you get called back to service? And nothing feels more like being not even the last kid picked at kickball, but you're not even going to be picked for kickball. I said, my military days are over. I will not be called back to service. And it wasn't disheartening. It was just more like I felt like, well, I got to figure out something else to do to impact our military and our veterans. And with that call, my wife said, of course, we'll donate, but what about our time? So within about a day later, or maybe an hour, I can't remember, we received a call saying, can you come to a meeting? I'm like, sure. So about a week later, we went to a meeting where they were ramping up for the 2001 Veterans Day events. And I think at the following meeting, we were voted in as directors, members of the board of directors, and my wife and I have served continually since October of 2001. What that gave me and Marvin Myers was the president at the time, a Vietnam veteran, former major, Silver Star recipient, great mentor, and did an amazing job assembling a great team of many Vietnam veterans. And it was such a great opportunity to work and meet so many people that either I'd read stories, Hal Moore, Joe Galloway coming in, and Medal of Honor recipients. I had these opportunities to meet some icons of history, and it kind of refilled that battery that was low through not being in the military anymore. And I found that being there and putting on these events was our way of, we always say we don't do any of this for us. It's for those before us and those who will come after us. We're all good. We talk, we work together, and you especially. We're all in the same veterans battle space. We work together to make sure that those who've served are reminded that their service mattered and that there's an immense value to that, regardless of where they served and when they served. And we want to inspire that next generation to serve our military, or if they're called to serve, feel proud about what they do. So the Veterans Day events were bringing that all together for me, and I had the opportunity to serve under Marvin for, I guess it was 9 years. And December of 2009, he announced he was retiring and nominated me to replace him as president and chairman of the association, and I've been in that position ever since.
Yeah, amazing. So Marvin Myers, I got to meet Marvin once. I meet his son every year at the Freedom Ball. I had the opportunity, and what an amazing, I'm so grateful for it to be a Marvin Myers Lear Award during the COVID. So I'm just so impressed with what Marvin did, and then even more impressed of what you've done and taken it over. Can you talk a little bit about the mission of the Veterans Day Parade and the Freedom Ball?
It is. It's one of the biggest things that we do. It's about honoring those who've worn and have worn and currently wear our uniform. It all goes back to that. And for us, we want to shorten that military civilian gap that can appear. And I think all of us who work in this battle space, that's what we're always working against. One of the things we do is we have 3 different events that we host on one day, which means that my team of volunteers and board of directors are exhausted by the time the Freedom Ball that evening. They've left it all on the field. But we host an observance ceremony, which is an indoor event at the Woodruff Arts Center now. which is a formal ceremony to honor Veterans Day. And we have key leaders who come in and speak, like Commissioner, Georgia Department of Veterans Service, Trish Ross is a dear friend who comes in and will give an overview from the state on their operations. And she provides a lot of insight and support to our organization. She'll speak. We'll have veterans being recognized in there. And what the idea to pivot that indoors was about some of our older veterans, our Korean War veterans and Vietnam veterans who are older. The weather could make them decide not to come out for Veterans Day activities. So by hosting one of our events indoors during the day, we have that ceremony that they can attend and know that it's in the weather safe place. Immediately following that, we have one of the largest Veterans Day parades in the country. Ours typically lasts about an hour and a half. Sometimes it's gone 2 hours. We have about 80 entries and 45 schools of JROTC. We have a Huey helicopter. Fort Benning will send up assets to be a part of it. It's a great community event to bring about both veterans and some of the cultural from the Korean and Taiwanese that'll march representing their military service. It's a great community event to bring everybody together. And nothing makes, I think, many of us emotional more than some of our veterans riding in the parade and waving and hearing people cheer. And that's what fires me up every year. And you know, Lloyd, you've been with us for many years to attend the parades, and I know you get excited to see our veterans coming down the street as well. At the end of the day, we do a black tie formal, which is our freedom ball. And other than 1 year off, I think for COVID, we've been at the Georgia Aquarium for like the last almost 15 years, I guess. But it's a 4-hour black tie event. Every ticket's subsidized, because if we charge the normal ticket price, it would be very high because we have an orchestra, it's there. So we subsidize every ticket to bring it down to $125 to try to make it as accessible to our veteran community as possible. And of course, sponsors provide tables as well, because we want to ensure that our event, as grand as we want it to be, still has the people we're wanting to honor in the audience. And it's a great opportunity to network. And something that I'm very proud of with Georgia Veterans Day is, because our mission is all about veterans. No, there's no other itinerary or agenda. Every other organization feels comfortable coming to our events. So our Freedom Ball will have most of the VSOs and you know, military leaders, political leaders, veterans organizations and groups. Everybody comes together. So you have this dynamic in the room of and of course with you standing for your service songs. You get to see how the room is filled with our veterans, and many of us are masters of camouflage. There's high school teachers, police officers, corporate. There's veterans everywhere. We just we don't all wear the hats. So when we get that moment to come and stand up at the ball, it's just a great time to show that brotherhood and sisterhood of service.
Yeah, it's amazing. Kudos for you. One of my pet peeves are these organizations do these big events and they price out the normal veteran, like, or the service member, you know, that can't afford $500 a ticket. So when I'm inviting the people to come to the Freedom Ball, I'm like, it's $125. It's at the aquarium, like, right? It's incredible meal, entertainment. I love it. I go every year. I went with my late wife. I went a couple years single, and I'm going with my new bride. Unfortunately, the COVID year was the year I won the award. So
we had a smaller room for you.
Smaller room, 10 feet apart, trying to give a speech with a mask on. So but it's absolutely amazing. One of my favorite memories are one of the years I marched in it. We had a UPS semi truck pulling Wreaths Across America rig, a trailer. We had the UPS package car with Blame Job and another package car, and probably about 25 UPSers. It was really incredible. I've got the ride in the Corvettes. I got to be a judge like 3 or 4 years. I'm convinced that I'm going to eventually bring my '68 Mustang out to participate in the parade.
Absolutely. You know, and as a friend, you know, to both me and the organization, you know, I thank you for your support all these years. And that's what we want, is everybody to make it their parade. And if and I appreciate your comments on the ticket price, because that is uh, a key motivator for what we do. With, we're 100% volunteer, myself included. Everybody on the staff is a volunteer, so all the corporate sponsorship and the money that we get goes in to offset the cost of the Freedom Ball, to allow no cost to be in the parade. There's no fee, and all of these things we put on, that other than that $125 to come to the ball, everything a veteran can come out and enjoy. And one of the things that we try to do is, every veteran has a different speed of assimilation, maybe is the word, of coming back in. Some want to jump right in and be with their fellow veterans, other want to stand back. So we try to create an environment that, if you're standing on the side, you can still participate. If you're right in the middle, you can participate. If you want information, or your family member wants information from VSO, it's available, but it's not being pushed on you. So there's a lot of this about creating that environment that everybody will feel comfortable.
Well, kudos to you. You've absolutely have done that.
Thank you.
Working with you guys, it feels like I'm part of the extended Miller family.
You are.
And Kevin's got a big family. It seems like everybody there is like a cousin, or it's a pretty awesome, or a niece or a nephew. And
nobody's safe from volunteering. Everybody gets called to service.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So absolutely amazing job. I'm already pumped for the next one.
This year coming up is our theme for this year is going to. We typically have a cooling down period from a period of conflict before we honor, because we want everybody to kind of have a little bit of a reset. So this year we're going to be honoring the global war on terror and the 25th anniversary of the 9/11 terrible tragedy. And it's our 45th annual event. So this will be our 45th, and we're going to be focused. It's going to be bigger this year. I can tell you that the interest level and everybody being represented, this is going to be our largest selection of I think younger veterans, or mobile veterans that we're not we're mobilizing for this. So I think it's going to be a great event on 7 November. These will take place. So, definitely encourage everybody to come out and take a look and participate, line the streets of Atlanta, and help us honor these great men and women.
We'll continue to get the word out. Atlanta is going to be a big year for us too. Our and I haven't even told you this yet, our Q3 summit's at the College Football Hall of Fame. It's going to be a summit / America 250 summit. So to celebrate
Perfect.
The 250th anniversary, we have my good buddy Mark Riley, who was on the last episode with the Washington tattoo. So he's coming out and bringing entertainment. And so the first time we're going to have an entertainment component to it. So big year. Come see us in Atlanta, the Atlanta Q3 summits. Then stick around in November for the Veterans Day parade and the Freedom Ball. But we're not done yet. Let's move over a little bit to talk about your connection with the Asian community and specifically what you do with the Korean military and Korean veterans.
It's we discussed it earlier about my first duty station. When I left Korea back in 1992, I never thought I would go back, and but everywhere I went, my service was measured by that year. It was colder in Korea. It was, the hills were harder. The mission was harder. It was always that what I always say, where I became an infantryman wasn't at Fort Benning. They kind of put it together, but I walking around in team spirit exercise in 1991 was where I learned what an infantryman was, and the gear and everything that you carried around there. It's where I felt like I finally had earned that role. So it was always in the back of my mind, and I would find Shin Ramen, which is my favorite ramen at the time. I would find it at stores, and there's always a romantic look back at Korea. I married my wife, who's of Philippine ancestry, and so we had an Asia pivot already. But as we were talking about Philippines a lot, I was already talking about Korea. A good friend, Sonny Park here in Atlanta, everyone knows Sonny, called me up one day. Called me up and said, I think this was in summer of 21, said, Kevin, I want you to talk to, KDVA. You should be involved in this group, Korea Defense Veterans Association. I said, okay, Sonny, send me some information. And I think it was in short order, I was speaking with Colonel Steve Lee, who's the senior vice president of KDVA, about how I can contribute and what we can do. Um, Parallel to that, there's also an amazing program that KDVA is the administrator for the Ministry of Patriots and Veterans Affairs for Korea. And that is a revisit trip. You revisit Korea. And much like your award you received during COVID in 2021, I was selected along with 8 other veterans to go back to Korea for 1 week, fully paid by the Republic of Korea, to showcase what our service allowed to happen. You know, our military men and women who served on the Korean Peninsula since the start of the war. Their efforts, all they've done, each person, whether they served on the DMZ or down south, everyone's contributed to the safety and security of the peninsula to allow Korea to rebuild itself and to become one of the strongest economies. So they want to remind our veterans who've served over there that their service mattered. So I'd never been thanked for my service more than I have when I was flown over there and met military commanders. Our senior leadership from the United States, from Secretary of Defense, was there for an event, as well as their leadership that we attended. It was a very much an opportunity to realize how much that alliance is important and our service on the peninsula mattered. So I came back from that, as Sonny jokes. He goes, "You were fully recharged," and it had been 30 years since I had been on Peninsula, and that revisit program that KDVA coordinated was life changing. And I began talks to. They had one chapter that had started in Hawaii, but they wanted a continental U.S. a CONUS chapter, and I volunteered to start the Georgia chapter, and General Brooks launched us in October of 2022 as the first CONUS chapter. So, uh, what a great opportunity to bring all the Korea defense veterans, the Katusas, the Koreans augmented the United States Army who serve alongside of us over there, the Republic of Korea veterans, those who served in their military who are now residents of Metro Atlanta, all come together and bring this veterans group, as well as the community at large. One of the things that I love about being a member of and working with KDVA is our membership. There's regular membership for those who've served on Peninsula and had served there in that capacity as a military member, but we have associate members for everybody else. My wife's a member. People who like K-pop demon hunters and want to learn more about Korea join KDVA. And we also have a lot of international relations and security, North Asia security talks and webinars that we put on. So we try to bring more than just a veterans group. We look at it as an opportunity to engage in international relations and really strengthen the ROK-US alliance from both here and in Korea. So one of the key things that I'm happy about is membership is 100% free. So anybody could sign up and join and learn more about it. Our entire board of directors, we have most of the USFK 4-star commanders as well as 3-star commanders are on the board, and they provide an amazing insight to sit across the table and hear briefings and their perspective on security on both on Penn as well as throughout the region is something you don't normally have access to. So it's something that kind of pulled me in, and then back in January 24, I was invited to join the headquarters staff up in DC. So I work for KDVA now as a membership coordinator, and my role is to grow and engage the membership as well as strategic planning for chapters that we're opening up throughout the United States. So as you said, you just never know what 1 year in Korea had always been that thing that pulled me back mentally is now something that every day I'm working for the ROK-US Alliance and reminding people what something that I always go back to as a young E1 on the DMZ to who I work with now and for was a U.S. Forces commander, a 4-star. You couldn't look at two separate limits to who was on Peninsula, but everyone from myself to him and everybody in between through the whole period, their service contributed to the success of Korea today, and it mattered. And that is our one mission, to is ensure that every Korean War veteran, every Korea defense veteran knows that their services mattered.
Yeah, that's amazing, Kevin. So, hey, our viewers and listeners, how can they find you? How can they find more information both about the Korean initiative and the Georgia Veterans Day Parade?
Information for Georgia Veterans Day is really simple. Just go to gvda.org. And for Korea Defense Veterans Association, and it's very similar to GVDA, so I'll leave a pause. It's kdva.vet.vet. And I encourage everybody to take a look at both of those organizations, and my contact information's there if anybody has any questions or if there's something I can do to explain the organizations. But it's an honor to serve and be a part of both of them.
Amazing. Kevin, I want to thank you first for coming on Tango Tango.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for your friendship. It matters a lot to me. And then thank you for what you're doing for the veterans community in Atlanta and in Georgia and across the globe. So you're making a difference and it matters, my friend.
Thanks. I really appreciate this, Lloyd. Great time.
Great. And to my listeners and viewers, as always, be safe, be kind, and be remarkable.
The Tango Tango Podcast is produced in partnership with Supply Chain Now. Join the Tango Tango community for more inspiring stories. Follow us on Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. Subscribe to the Tango Tango YouTube channel and follow and listen to Tango Tango wherever you get your podcasts.